let's give this a try again. We're going to go live, and then I'm going to start posting the link again. That's all we can do.
All right.
Let's see what happens here. All right. Okay, so we're going back on live again. Copy this again. Okay, we've got 2 watching it already. 3. We're building an audience back up, folks. Sorry about that. Evidently, the reporters even go to YouTube. So this is fun times.
Yeah, they don't like truth being exposed about them.
Okay, let's see here. I'm trying to see everything. 3 back watching now. Okay, I can hear somebody's stereo, but
okay, that's probably me with the TV.
Oh, okay.
Shut it off.
I'm watching it.
Are we live? We're live on YouTube right now, right?
Yeah, we are live again on YouTube. It wouldn't let us go to Facebook again for some odd reason.
Because they were reporting it.
Yeah.
But this is something.
This has been the consistent thing. They just don't want us to get it out there.
Well, they don't want a message that
I'll be honest. I mean, Ante's saying his thing. You got your things up there. I'm trying to be over here. Mm-hmm. I'm not defending anybody, but I'm giving people. I want to know what's going on myself. There's a lot of things I don't know. I thought I should know, but I don't. Obviously. And I'm trying to just figure out what these people's experiences were and what are you going to do going forward? Like, you know what I mean? In some people's cases, all hope is lost. Some people might have still a fighting chance. These are the things I want to clear up. So,
right.
Well, I think a good thing is, for people to understand a little bit about my background, so that way they can understand what motivates me, what brought me in to this movement and stuff like that. So, let me share my story briefly. I got married in 2011. I've never been married prior to that. And, I got married to my wife at that time. And, we had, shortly afterwards, we could see the daughter. My eldest daughter's name is Ariana. And, we went through the normal, newlywed married, things and issues and stuff like that. Started, obviously we were married, we're living together, and we went through our honeymoon phase and stuff like that. And then, so we had the normal everyday stressors of life involved. And then, she got pregnant with our second daughter, Aaliyah. And, for me personally, because I was completely oblivious to what was happening behind the scenes, because I'm thinking, happy wife, happy life, everything's going great. She hasn't been, complaining about anything other than her job and stuff like that. And, but when she was pregnant with Aaliyah, there was something snapped in her, and I don't know what it is. Even in my ex parte hearing with the court, I asked the court for help. I told them she's sick. Her mother, was committed into a state mental hospital for schizophrenia. And, so it was a big concern that it passed to her. So I was really worried and scared because, this was all new to me. I'd never really dealt with anything like this. Mm-hmm. And then in January of 2014, I was seriously injured. I didn't know it at the time, but I had a broken neck and 6 herniated discs in my back. I just thought my back was messed up. I didn't realize the severity of my injury. And that's where I got this little scar from. My C6, C7 was broken, fractured. The disc all around them were herniated. Then 6 discs in my thoracic were also herniated. And I was in a great deal of pain. So I went to work, and I was just sitting down at work because I couldn't work because, I own my own business. I'm a contractor. And I was just sitting down at work instructing my men what to do. But I was just pouring sweat from the pain. And I came home that Friday night after putting in about, 14, 16 hours or so, something like that. We'll just say 14.
Okay.
And, normally when I came home, I was greeted at the door, by the dog, the kids, her, and, that's something that I loved. I loved being married. And I loved coming home to a wife and to my children and to my family. And that particular day, nobody was there, which I found odd, and I had a couple of my guys with me as they were helping me walk into the house, breathe at that point. And, as we walked in, I heard some rustling around, going around in the bedroom. And I thought maybe she might have been playing with the kids or whatever. So I had my guys walk me over there because, otherwise I was going to have them also lay me in bed because I was just completely incapacitated. And when we opened up the door, I caught her in bed with a police officer from that city. Caught them in the act doing the deed. The kids we had bunk beds for the children at that time. And the bunk beds were directly in front of our bed and the kids were sleeping in there. And then needless to say, they shrieked, freaked out. The officer came and tried to charge at me. And I sidestepped and I kicked him in the back of his knee and he went face first into the dresser. And, he knocked himself out. And then I looked at her and I was like, bluntly put, I was like, bitch, we're getting a divorce. Mm-hmm. And, she immediately grabbed her clothes, ran out the house. And then me and my guys stood there. I dismantled the officer's firearm completely, completely took it apart, removed the spring, everything. And I just kept the frame and I kept this badge and I took it to a friend of mine who works for the FBI. And I took it to him and I gave it to him. And, that officer ended up getting canned, I guess, later on. But, I don't know I haven't followed up with him at all. Mm-hmm. But then she came back at about 11 o'clock, 11:30, something like that at night. And by that time, I was sitting out on the couch because I didn't even want to lay in that bed anymore. And I was hurt, so I could barely move anyways. And, that was it. That was the end of the night. The next day, we had a men's prayer breakfast at my church. And my project manager, who was also one of my salesmen, his name's Jeremy, he came to pick me up. We went to the prayer breakfast. Again, I'm just sitting there profusely sweating because of the amount of pain I'm in. And after that, we went to go pick up some insurance checks from jobs that we've completed. And we picked up about 6 checks, totaling just over $100,000. And I'm writing out all the bills, for the materials, for the subcontractors I use. I'm signing their checks and filling them out. And then I signed the back of the checks and the deposit slips. And I wrote Jeremy his check because, Friday was payday, but he was okay with waiting till that day, because he knew I was going to need him. And I sent him off to the bank. And while I'm doing that, she's saying, you're going to give me all that money. And I looked at her and I said, I'm not going to give you another dime ever again. And then she tried to pull I got to pay the bills. I said, give me the bills and I'll pay them right here, right now. Mm-hmm. And, she started freaking out on that. And even Jeremy was taken aback, like, wow, this is really odd. Because, I didn't mention anything to Jeremy about what happened the night before. So he didn't know at that time. So then I sent Jeremy on his way to the bank and to go make the deposits and bring all the receipts back to me so that way I could have it all properly logged. And on his way back, when he came back, there was 12 police officers, 12 cars, actually, I should say. There was more police officers than that at my house. My wife called the police and said that I threw a Bible at her. And, I was actually charged with the felony in Ohio for using the Bible as a weapon. They charged me with a domestic violence. And, this was something where, it hit front page of the newspaper, it hit social media, something that, people like Fran try to use against me. And, when I went to court on that, I'm still, I haven't got any kind of medical.
Auntie, you're a real Bible thumper.
My brother made the comment of, he's like, dude, when I seen that, when I was reading about that, he's like, 3 things ran through my mind. Number 1, I know how you are about the Bible. You would never do that. Number 2, if you did do that, you were probably exercising the demon. He's like, and number 3, I was just thinking if you actually use that as a defense in your court case.
I was swearing under oath on the Bible. I swear.
But, I was charged with this, and, and it was an attack by her to attack my standing that I had within our church. And needless to say, when, we all know how the silver bullet's used, and we all have a good understanding of, a lot of people don't know how the system really is. They read it in the paper and they think it's absolute truth. And, jury's already convinced of whatever the paper put out. So, it caused a lot of problems and pretty much destroyed my standing in the church that I've attended since I was 17. And, people just looked at me, and it was really, needless to say, I don't go to that church anymore, and numerous other things. But, when I went to court for this, now keep in mind, by the time I was in court, we're talking nearly a week later, I still have a broken neck that I haven't had any kind of medical treatment on. I had to sleep on a steel cot. I'm in absolute misery. Get bonded out. My father came and bonded me out. And, with that being said, we're sitting there because they wanted to bind it over. And my father got an attorney and, for me. And, because at this time I wasn't really representing myself anyhow. I just always had attorney prior to this. And the attorney wanted to take it all the way to trial. And because, he noticed a lot of what the cops wrote in the report, a lot of what she wrote in her statement was complete lies based on photographs that were taken by the police. Their first photograph that they took, because they're time-stamped and dated, their first photograph that they took clearly shows the Bible on the coffee table. And then 20 minutes later, they took their 4th photograph. Now the Bible has pages torn out of it, laid on the floor. The Bible itself is laying on the hardwood floor. And they took pictures of that. And, my attorney pointed that out. And then the prosecutor's like, look, I'm going to keep it real simple for you. You either plead to a simple assault, which you won't do any more jail time. You have to go to anger management classes, 20 classes that you have to pay for, and you'll be on probation for a year. He's like, or I'll make sure you never see your kids again. Now, I know how Ohio treats men in divorce because I've heard stories. I know good men, and I know how they were treated. And, I love my children, and I wanted to be in my children's lives. And, I sat there, and the prosecutor was dead serious, and I knew the family court would immediately award, her whatever she wants, because she used to be, the big boss for children's services out here in this county. And when she was the big boss for children's services out here, like her next promotion would have been director over the entire state. when she did work for Children's Services, the judge of the family court was the prosecutor for the Children's Services, and they worked daily together for over 10 years. So I'm walking into a losing situation. So
I think you're walking into a conflict of interest as well.
Yeah, so I did whatever I had to make sure I could still be part of my kids' lives. So I did take the plea of a simple assault, just because I wanted to see my children. I wanted to be part of their lives and stuff like that. Then we tried a reconciliation thing through the church because, I loved my wife. I didn't understand what was going on with her. I knew she was sick. I knew she was mentally ill. And, that's all I knew, and I had no clue where all this was coming from. Years later, after I found out the things that I found out that she's been messing around the whole time. So, but that's neither here nor there. But back then, I just wanted to, get my marriage back to what God wanted it to be. And, to be part of my children's lives. So, I did what I believe God wanted me to do. And, I obeyed what the court wanted me to do. And I went through that whole process.
Yeah. Let me ask you, did you take one of the Francesca Amato Banefield's courses for, what was it? The marriage covenant?
Yeah, no. This chick didn't exist back then. This is before she just popped up.
Well, I'm interested, not that I paid for it, but I'm interested to know what those courses entail.
Yeah.
Does anybody know that?
From my understanding, when we're talking about the Zoom classes that Fran is putting on, evidently they're putting on classes. They're having somebody come in and teach the course. And then from my understanding, in order to get enrolled in the class, okay, you have to give up your birth certificate to them.
And Social Security.
They want your birth certificate.
For what?
That's part of the issue, right? Because that would be part of the fraud. Because if they have your birth certificate, they can get a hold of your Social Security number. They get a hold of your Social Security number, they've got you by the balls, quite frankly. Because if they've got your Social Security number and what they ask for is your license, and they want you to pay for the Zoom classes $20 a month with a credit card.
Yep.
So now they've got all they need to get right there in order to commit fraud against you if you ever turn against them. So that's what the real issue is that we have here, is that these people are getting things worked up to where they can commit identity theft on every single person that goes.
I have to say, and I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for it, but you know what? Really, though, I understand people are desperate, but come on, we're adults here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You question certain jobs that you go for, and you give up that type of information. And I get the whole being desperate for the kid. I get that. Believe me, I get it. Mm-hmm. But you're signing your soul to a devil. You understand? I mean, like I said, I don't know what she does or whatever, but why would you do that? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, I don't give my social to nobody.
And that's where people got to realize that's one of the monstrous red flags between these false prophets and the true advocates. Number one, a true advocate isn't going to want to know. No attorney asks for your birth certificate and stuff like that, and they're allowed to practice law. You understand? So why would you give your information? Like, to me, it's mind-boggling, and I get the desperateness to children. I get that. I really do. But as an adult, where is your head at? And that many people, like, I don't get it. I don't. Yeah. And it's one of those things that's a big issue. If there's somebody who claims to be an advocate and they're asking you for such personal information, if they're asking you money, if they're asking you need to run away. If they're asking you big red flags, number one, they're asking you for donations or love donations, or like David Jose does with his sovereign citizen crap, or they try to get you to buy into some kind of Ponzi scheme, talking about I'll get you rich on real estate, like David Jose claims, or cryptocurrency. But funny, I checked that out. He's never owned real estate. He's never owned cryptocurrency. So how can he help you get rich? It's a Ponzi scheme. He looks to take money from you. Invest $1,000 with me and I'll return you $10,000 in real estate. As a person involved in real estate investment, and it's our family business, I'm telling you right now, people, that never happens. We have a long history in our family business of being investors. That's impossible. So if it sounds too good to be true, it is.
Yep.
And
my grandfather used to say that, and that's true.
And, can you make money in real estate investment? Yes, but it's not happening overnight. It's not happening instantaneously. It takes years to build up a portfolio. There's proper ways to do it. Like we have Section 8 tenants, and, there's so many aspects to it. You can't even begin to wrap your mind around how big of a deal it really is, just to even start off with, let's say, 1 or 2 properties as rentals.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So and let me ask you this. My question is this. Why do you think, as a person who is an advocate, you're doing the right things, you're helping people? Obviously, Elizabeth told you, that you were doing the right thing. You didn't do anything or take advantage of her. You gave her exactly what she needed. Why do you think that these people, even though they're seeing the truth and they're seeing everything come out in front of them, why do you think that none of them are abandoning her right now?
Because they're completely deceived and they're buying into the hoopla. And maybe a lot of the ones that she's got in support of her, because I've seen them, are people, in my opinion, because I've actually vetted some of the cases, prior to them joining with her. In my opinion, they are people who deserve to lose their kids in the first place. When you start putting out cigarettes on a kid, when you start abusing a kid, no offense, no kid should be in your custody. I advocate first for the children. I'm not a father's advocate. I'm not a mother's advocate. I help to advocate for the family, but I'm a child advocate. I put the kids first, and I've done so with my own personal case. I've always put my children first. From the beginning, I've always sought equal custody, and even though I faced the biggest obstacles there is on the planet, I myself won equal joint physical legal custody of my kids. To a point where her friend, the judge, straight out told her that she is not the better parent. I am the better parent. And, she did that in our final hearing. And, as you see with the post with me and my children, I get my time with them now.
Yeah. And let me go back to this, though. I want to ask, because when I'm seeing this, right, and I'm looking at this from the logical conclusion of just a rational person coming into this, and let's say I'm very rational. I don't have a dog. Let's say I don't have a dog in this show. Okay, if that was the case, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at this from an outside perspective, and I'm seeing what I'm seeing. Why would I support Francesca Matto Bainfield in her claims of trying to help people who are going through these absolute atrocities in court, right? Why would I do that when there are good, rational people out there who are not yelling and screaming on every live feed video every 15 minutes of the day that she seems to do a live stream video, and it always seems to be while she's driving? Is that, maybe I'm mistaken here, but isn't that, Pete, you can tell me, is that illegal in the state of New York to do a live feed while you're driving?
Yes.
As long as it's hands free, you're good to go.
Okay. Okay.
But not when you're staring into the phone and not the road.
When you get into a fender bender, then you have it on live feed. That person got a nice lawsuit for the neck and the back after that. So
yeah, and evidently we've already witnessed that she's had a fender bender. So,
and you know what, I actually showed my mom one of her live feeds, and she was mentioning, oh, we need this, and this from you, and my mom, who she's old country as can be. Like, she didn't know what a microwave was till 2002. She thought it was a fancy cabinet. Here's the microwave. She thought it was a fancy cabinet with a clock on it. So she's as old country as can be. Even she was like, who would ever listen to this? This is insane. And, and she don't have a dog in the fight, other than, me and my experience. She's met somebody that's already came here, and sought my help and stuff like that. And she sees how I help people constantly. And she was like, who would be stupid enough to ever believe a word that woman has to say? I don't even know that woman, and I know she's a liar.
Right. Yeah. And, let me go into this a little bit, because I'm seeing some of the stuff that I'm seeing, and being a very rational person and calm and cool and collected. When I see some of the things that people are telling people to do, let's mention Kirk's Law Corner for a minute, because that seems to be a hotbed issue right now, of talking about the Magna Carta, talking about all of these different charters, talking about things that are federal law. Okay, I'm just going to ask this, and I'm going to throw this out there. Auntie, have you ever really looked at something and said, federal law, I'm going to quote this, and they're going to have to go by it in the family court that's local? Has that ever worked for anyone?
On only the following occasions. If it was an annotated law. Annotated law are cases that lost. Kirk himself proves his ignorance when he made the statement, I've read the annotated Constitution, and it goes against our rights for what they're doing. Well, the annotated Constitution is nothing but losing cases. Mm-hmm. Okay? So when I bring up, and it would be brought up in an objective form, I would object to something that the opposing party filed to. I would start with the local court, because I would find a case in the local court, the court that I'm in, where the court already ruled. Then I'd go to the district appellate court, which is their direct boss. Then I would go, which in this case, the 11th district is Lake County's district appellate court. And I grab a case from there. Then I would go to the 11th district appellate court's boss, which is the 6th district appeals court, which governs several states. Then I would grab a federal ruling of why their motion, or why whatever I'm asking for the court to deny of their aspect. And I would be like, here's plenty of case law for you. Here you go. Mm-hmm. And, that's the federal laws. They can, in some aspects, be used, but only if you use them properly. But then you also got to make sure you cite proper doctrines to back it up of why that court has to listen to it. Mm-hmm. And one of those doctrines is called the Erie Doctrine. And, you can look it up in Black's Law 10th edition. Edition. And the Erie Doctrine basically says it like this. When it basically talks about, hey, federal, state, local, they all have to follow in suit and stuff like that. But when you file in federal court, the Erie Doctrine makes the federal court also recognize the state laws and how they make their decision. So by that being in effect, well, then the state also has to listen to the federal law decisions, but not in matters where the federal law doesn't have jurisdiction, unless you're citing why the federal case lost in an objection. So when people
and I know that's all 100% true because I'm actually in appellate court right now.
Right.
So when I read all the case law and the comparisons and why this and why you got one paragraph that explains case law as much and why.
Right,
it's like
right.
everything you're saying is 100% true with that.
Exactly. Now the Erie Doctrine is a fundamental legal doctrine of civil procedure in the United States, which mandates the federal court sitting in diversity jurisdiction when they hear a state law in the context of supplemental jurisdiction, they basically have to pretty much, let's just say it this way, they've got to lean over and bend over and take it in the backside when it comes down to federal law.
Yep. And that's when people are like, oh, I'm going to take my case federal. You got to recognize, and this is why a lot of people get their cases kicked out of federal court by Rule 12B or whatever, and because of this doctrine, and they don't understand, and then they talk about how it's a corrupt system. Now, let's say out of every 100 cases, I'd say maybe 5 out of the 100 are because of true corruption. Right. I'd say, 10 to 20 are probably because of bad lawyers or bad actors, CPS, whatever you want to say. And I'd say the rest of them are because people don't know what they're doing, and, they holler corruption. But another thing, like people are like, why don't the family courts, acknowledge constitutional rights? Well, here's a real good thing for people to recognize. It's not that they don't. The annotated Constitution, the arguments that so many people bring up have already been decided on, and they shoot it down. Because they know you're a layman. They know you haven't earned the court's respect. But another thing is, what a lot of people are unaware of is the way the law is structured today is the Constitution is a statute. And what precedes a statute? The court rules supersede the statute. See, the rules are a huge key to many of my victories because I bust attorneys' balls on them. I bust opposing arguments on them. And, you start digging into the annotated rules of civil procedure, annotated rules of criminal procedure, and annotated rules of superintendents, rules of ethical conduct, the annotated judicial canon. You start digging into this. What it does is it's not that it gives you your case. What that's used for is to save the court's time because of judicial responsibilities. These are cases that lost. So don't bring up this argument because this case already lost in a higher court or in that court. Right.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and try and bring Elizabeth Byler back on here if I can. She was
honestly, that was well said. I give you that, man, because I'm familiar with a lot of that. Not as much as you, but I'm learning as I go because I'm in 3 different courts. So all that stuff that you are saying, and I'm telling the people that is true. Exactly what Ante is saying. I agree with 100%, and I'm living it right now. Living it right now. So
that's exactly what he's talking about. That's why I've said in the past when people have set back like David Jose and those Lazaro, whatever the hell his name is, and I said, hey, look, I love you to death, and let me tell you, I am a soldier. I have served in the Army. I have served my country well, and I love the Constitution, but it does not apply in family court. It's not going to help you.
It actually apply even in a lot of criminal court proceedings. You have to present the argument properly. You go by the rules. I keep on reinforcing
the procedure. Yep. Yeah. And Elizabeth, I've got you back in here, and I'm sorry because we got disconnected. It looks like some kind of crazy thing happened as usual. We all know that Fran's got her little hackers out there, so maybe that's what happened. I don't know, but I want to ask you, what have you seen within the P4P organization that haunts you as a person?
Punished for protecting?
Yeah.
Yep. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep. We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm trying to get my charger right now, actually.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want it to die.
All right.
We'll go back in, but let me get this real quick so I can get back with you, because I had to get a chiropractic treatment. That's what I had to get off the phone with earlier. It was crazy.
Okay.
He come here just in time when my husband's like, you need to get off the phone right now. So
yeah. So you know, my thinking here is obviously you being within and seeing what was going on, and you saying to these people, hey, look, these people will ruin your case. How and in what ways did they ruin your case?
Okay, so Fran was out there, and I was out there with her. I'm not going to lie. I was out there just as bad as she was, rallying and everything else, thinking that she was doing the right thing myself. I went out there with her, like memorials for Nancy Schaefer, just stuff like that, that we went out there and we was rallying. But at the same time, she was talking about taking down Pennsylvania judges and taking down Pennsylvania. And doing so, they were documenting, of course, keeping track of everything that was said, everything that was done, where we went, what was, you know, all of it. And her going out there and talking about taking Pennsylvania down, and Chris going and sending that paperwork into the courts that he did, and Ante knows about that. That's what really screwed my case completely, was him filing stuff and literally threatening the judiciary system in Pennsylvania. Okay. He threatened every single one of them.
Okay.
And then did not show up in court.
Okay.
What was the threat, though? What did he do? What did he say?
He tried to twist the emoluments prosecution and try to basically get them indicted for committing fraud and all this other stuff. And he tries to say, things that just are irrelevant and moot, like he did in every other case, whether it be federal or state. He did it even in my case. And I'm just going to say this utmost fact, every single court has kicked Chris Halleck's work out of it. And, he came in trying to represent Elizabeth.
Yeah, just to be clear, though, so he threatened these particular, judges and stuff like that? And attorneys?
Yep. Everybody in the Pennsylvania judiciary system, yes.
And what was the threat? Disbarment? What was the threat?
They're all going to lose their license, and the judges were going to be taken off benches, be arrested, all of it.
Okay, that's what I want to know, what the threat was. Like, what brought it to that level where it got you where you are today? Like, you know what I mean? That's what I want to know. But okay.
Right. So that would have been in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, that he did that. So before we even walked into the courthouse for the court hearing, it was already, the deck was stacked against me so high, there was no way out. They were so mad at what he had filed into the courts, and then what Fran was doing and out there saying she was going to take Pennsylvania down and to its knees, literally saying that. Everybody was so mad by the time we got into court, there was no winning this case.
Right.
The whole county.
So basically, because of their social media prowess, so to speak, they basically put their crap out there in your case and put themselves out there on the line that they were going to do something to help you win your case. But in all actuality, what really happened, because of their social media prowess, they made absolute threats against judges, and that ended up ruining your case.
And here, let me be clear on something also with this, Jay and Pete, so you guys have a better comprehension of how serious this was. when me and Elizabeth were working prior to her, letting Chris and Fran take over, we got on the phone with these people, and with the guardian ad litem, with the attorneys, with the foster parent, with everybody representing whoever in the case, and we got on the phone, and it was actually something where there might have been maybe one or two other more hearings, and she could have had her kids back. It was something that we could have resolved peacefully in a civil manner without sitting there going into this huge tirade of, we're going to war, we're going to throw you in prison, rah, 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 rah. They were willing to go ahead and, let's reunite this family. Let's help this family. Okay, tragedy, befell her because, she was in a bike wreck, lost her leg. Okay, there's all kinds of extenuating circumstances. But let's put all that beside us and let's get back to what's the proper thing to do, and that's to help this family and restore this family. And everybody was in agreement with that. And then, Elizabeth decided to go ahead and listen to Hallett and Fran. And,
honestly, this is the thing that was pointed out to me is the other side was actually scared of when Ante and Shar and a whole bunch of other people that was working my case had broken it out completely like it was the truth from the day one being fraud. And they were willing to make a deal. And
they absolutely were.
I lost my right because of.
Okay. So basically, now you're telling me, on top of that, they're willing to cut deals with people. Like, say, the other side, they're saying, hey, look, she'll give up her rights if you do this, if you leave her alone. Or she'll do this if you do that.
Well, no. The deals that she's talking about is that they were willing to work a deal with her where she would get her kids back. Because, when me and Shar got involved, what a lot of people don't know is, my original advocacy began with, equal rights within the union. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of people like talking about a famous case, and there's a lot of things they don't know about it, such as the case I'm speaking of is the Kids for Cash case, which is in PA. And, at that time, I was an inspector and a contractor. So I was able to find out, the judge's dirty little secrets, turn that over to, the proper authorities. And I came in the judge's courtroom, and with the families, there was 14 families with me because it was a union brother. One of his kids' friends took his life, and his kid was talking about doing the same. So, I was like, okay, we got to intervene. And, we came into the courtroom, and I told the judge straight out to his face, and he's like, get out of here before I hold you in contempt and throw you in jail. I said, you have no standing over me, sir. I was like, but don't worry, I'll be back. And when I come back, you're going to jail. And he ended up, about an hour and a half later, getting arrested and charged. And he got sentenced to 28 years because of all the evidence that I was able to turn over from the building department, from bank financials. I did what's called a true loss prevention report, and I tracked the financials, and I followed the money, and I proved that him and this builder of these baby prisons, where he was sending these kids to, that they were paying him to basically send kids there, and the kids, to a point where the kids would take their own lives. So, this, and there's actually a photograph of this man walking out of the courtroom, and you could see me in the photograph. I actually got the same jeans I still have them jeans that I was wearing in that photograph. My hair was a little bit longer then. So they became really afraid when they found out, I was a part of helping her, because they knew I already had previous standing, and that this is what I'm known for. So that's where they became afraid. But at the same time, it's a political game, even with the judiciary. I mean, let's call it for what it is. It's a political game. So, you gotta understand there's a politics behind it. So yes, let's work a deal where we keep this quiet, and you guys just correct everything you did wrong, and restore, and reunite, and let's do that. And that's where we were pushing for, and they were all game for that.
Right. My issue here is, and I'm going to ask you about this because, the thing is, I'm gonna say, I understand where you're coming from and why the fear is there with the judiciary and such. My issue is coming from the inside of P4P or whatever they want to call themselves this week.
P4P is what they call themselves now.
And my thing is, are they or are they not a nonprofit organization? Because I've heard this over and over again. Yes, they've applied for that they're a not-for-profit. Okay, are you a not-for-profit or are you a business? Because there's two different things. You cannot be a not-for-profit and be a lucrative business. So which are they?
What's up, baby?
Does anybody know?
I don't know if they are. I know that she has put some of her own money out there, but I know she's also asked for money as far as for her classes and stuff like that. And if you don't have it, she'll say, just put a penny in there and you still paid. But I know for myself, like the other day right after the court hearing, after I got my ruling, and I was out there saying how heartbroken I am and I might as well just give up and all this other. I hadn't realized at that point that she was the reason I lost. I wasn't told that until actually yesterday, and that's why I'm out here doing what I am now. But I found out later that night after I was out there crying and begging God pretty much for mercy at this point because I lost my kids and couldn't figure out why. The first message I got from her was, join my classes. The very first message.
Okay, so if
we'll teach you with the affidavit
you took originally did not help you, her answer is to take more classes. Okay. Well, okay. Here's the thing. My good friend Bud Vino tells me all the time, he keeps giving me this Einstein theory. The definition of insanity is to repeat the same behavior over and over again and expect a different result. What is it that they're going to do for you in this new course that you didn't get the first time?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
What is it that if you take another course, if you take more courses, what is it that you're going to get this time that you didn't get last time?
They said that I would learn how to write my own affidavit up and use the affidavit that they are using in court to get children home.
Okay. Let's stop there because you're telling me that what they're saying is you need to take and pay for a course for this affidavit that they already have written up to teach you how to use this affidavit that's already written up. All you have to do is fill your name in. Okay, yep. So now they're teaching you. You're paying $20 for a course to write your own name.
I wasn't charged, but I know others that have been. So, yeah.
But are people aware that there's such a thing as Google and YouTube?
There are.
Like, I don't know, like, because, and I'm not even being sarcastic, well, I am, but I'm not, but there's search engines, there's Bing, there's this, there's that. You can go on and watch a YouTube video pertaining to your state on how to file a proper motion. Some of the videos are ancient, but it's the same shit. It's the same way to file a motion anywhere else that you would go. In your state, New York, there's one way to do it. It's been like that for decades. This way to do it. I don't understand why people just don't log on. And why would you pay for something that's free?
Yeah.
Well, what a lot of people are also unaware that many of their states have online forms you can fill out in your case. So, and they're pretty simplified.
Right. I know that there's been a lot of interruptions.
Go down to your local courthouse. And if you're polite about things, you'll get a lot further, okay?
Yeah.
No matter what your issue is, okay? We all know that. You're polite, you talk to the people, even though if they're nasty, you wow them over, you suck it up for a minute, but you get the information that you need. I've done it a million times in court. They're nasty, they're having a bad day, somebody just yelled at them, I chuckle a little bit, I crack a little joke, and then we go on about our business. And then they tell me things that they normally probably wouldn't tell the same person, the next person that's asking the same question, because I was polite about it. You can go a lot further. And if you got to do a little ass kissing for your kids, shit, do it. Do what you need to do.
and this was the thing that we're pointing out to you. We're trying to tell you to be real and civil. And I know we're already past 9 o'clock, so we're gonna have you back on, Auntie. And but thank you so much for coming on. I promise you we will get you back on soon, and we'll figure out this whole Facebook fiasco as soon as all right.
Yeah, and again, I just want to reiterate to people, you could write the best briefs, you could present all your evidence and all that, but if the court wants to throw you in jail, you're going to jail. Do not believe any of these fools that say the courts are not real courts. They're pretty real when you go to jail.
Yep.
And that's one of those things. So I want you to recognize something that a lot of cases, how they turn out is about perception. And how the court perceives what's going on. So it's not so much about the law. It's not so much about everything else. It's about the perception. And a prime example was, like C.J. Abernathy's arrest. It's about the perception. And, I'm just going to say it like this. He needs to take down that video and he needs to stop with this nonsense. He caused his own arrest. The cop tried to be civil with him and told him to tone it down. And when he squared up with the cop and said, you're gonna have to physically put your hands on me. That's all the cop means. Okay, you're going to jail, pal. So it's about perception. He could have handled that way better. I mean, the day before, what he's not telling people is the day before he came in there calling the clerks cunts and all this other stuff. You're not going to get anywhere like that.
No,
and there is no room for emotions in the courtroom.
That's right.
Whether it's a civil, domestic relations, family court, or a criminal case, you have to be a robot. And stand in
my brother. We'll have you on shortly here, and I'm going to go ahead and let you go for this evening. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Auntie.
Yeah, no problem, man.
All right, here. I'm going to go ahead and let him go here. Yeah, I everything so far, I agree with Auntie. You seem very calm, cool, relaxed, like a cucumber. And, like they say on ESPN, he was cool as the other side of the pillow. And, he came in cool, calm, and relaxed. And what you saw was evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence of what we have already told you. There are good advocates. There are bad advocates. There are good people and there are bad people. And there are some people who are probably good advocates and could be good advocates, but haven't quite learned how to handle themselves yet.
And, I just like to tell everybody, too, like, the way I operate, I have a lot of attorneys and all that other stuff. But you know what? I don't lay my life on my attorneys. Doesn't matter how good they are, 5-star, they know that, don't matter. You got to do your own research. And Auntie will attest to that. You have to do your own research. There's things sometimes lawyers overlook, or there might be something that you find somewhere buried that you can utilize in your case. Do your own research. If you're going to go to advocates and you're comfortable with these people, then that's on you. That's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to certain people, but if you do your own research, do your own diligence, understand what you're fighting for and what the rules are and how you're going to apply them. And if they even apply to you, half of them could be very vague to your case, and it's only going to put in a bunch of mumbo jumbo. The clerk ain't going to read it and give the judge over these decisions. Doesn't work that way. And nobody knows your case better than you. So keep fighting, keep doing what you're doing, everybody. And I do. I wish you all the best of luck. And I pray for everybody every day.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. We're going to get to things next week, and we're going to roll down things next week in a much more non-convoluted fashion. Let's hope. We're going to keep testing Facebook. We're going to keep finding out why we're having issues there. And hopefully we can come back to you on Facebook live and get this thing going on. You know, but my brother Pete McNeil, you rocked it out just as always, my brother. And
good to be back with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely good to be back with you as well. And I know Rosemary will be back in here as well. And like I said, people, you know, when we first did this, I said beforehand, the Far From Normal radio show is its own thing. It's going to do its own thing, and I'll be with that. But this show, you're going to hear a show that's much more centralized into the movement itself. It's not going to do as much of the reaching out as Far From Normal radio show. The reaching out is Far From Normal. The inward, inside is Talking Normal. So you got to look at it that way. What's going on in the movement stays here. What's going on outside the movement, trying to bring people in, is that show. It's two different animals completely, guys. But we love you. And as we always say every single week, keep living, keep loving, and keep talking normal, people. Love you.
Peace out. One more.
God bless.
Down, nailed to the wire, known by the sin of our fathers. Let it all come out and burn like a fire. We'll shout a little bit louder, 'cause the night still has 1,000 eyes. And when the truth is brought to light, you and I will be through every door, and the stakes get higher. Hard evidence is power. Turn loose a war, trade proof for the liar. We'll shout a little bit louder, 'cause secrets tell a million lies, but the truth is always brought to light. So you and I will be to build the walls they hide behind, but the truth is always brought to light, brought to light. Secrets tell a million lies, but the night still has 1,000